God damn, I mean, the disrespect of the NBA, man, it's just, I don't get it, man. It's like now new school players are dissing the crap out of old school players are dissing the crap out of new school players. I mean, it really has to come to a common ground, and I think it determines that one thing. It really determines about that one thing, man. I wonder, I wonder, I wonder.
Bend over, turn back way. Girl, I wanna pull you in a little.
Girl, make me push it in. Stand 5 cent, 10 cent dagger. Stand 5 cent, 10 cent dagger.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lewis Basketball Network. It is your boy Lewis, and I back once again with another banger with yet another video. Say it with your chest, Lou. Once again, man, this video is on the new school versus old school players, and you know what is the reason that both players from today and players from yesteryears past are dissing the hell out of each other? Because there's some players who respect what players have done in the past and in the present. And then there's other ones who just can't stand the way that the league is today and how people say that, you know, what the league was back then and that it wasn't really anything. So what's the issue, ladies and gentlemen? It comes down to respect. And I think what we have a mutual partnership is players from both eras, from back then and to today, have a problem on disrespecting one another in terms of, in terms of how the game was played today and back then. Now, there are players who respect players back then, and there are players who respect from back then that respect players today. And then you have others that are saying, if I was in this era, I would dominate. And then people who are saying, who used to play, said, well, if I were to dominate in today's era, nobody could stop me. Oh, there's no hand checking. Oh, you guys play zone defense. I mean, who's going to stop me from going to the rim? And, we always try to pick a pool of players as to who would dominate in what era. I look at it this way. When we come down to the bottom line, because the Lewis Basketball Network says so. I'm going to say that again. The bottom line, because the Lewis Basketball Network said so. Great players have the ability to adjust to any era. I believe that that's the case. I remember it was a guy, one of my subs said it best, Mr. D. Holloway 2, shout out to you, my man. He said it best, man, when he talked about the 96 Bulls if they would have faced the 2017 Golden State Warriors. Defense travels, folks. Now, again, when you talk about rules, the rules are probably going to be much different. They're obviously going to be different now because of in the time that we're in. But, hey, man, it's like Michael Jordan, beast of a defender in his prime, and was still good even though he was past his prime. Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, like, those guys are still going to be able to play defense. Now, it's going to be a little bit more difficult just because of some of the rule changes and that they can't hand check. But what was one thing that all three of those guys had in common? Exceptional footwork, folks. That's why defense can travel. And their ability to use their hands without fouling you was really going to be a very key part. Their ability to slow the tempo down. That team was very smart on the defensive end to tell me that they weren't going to be able to slow the game down. Now, I'm still going to tell you that the Golden State Warriors will still give them problems because they had never faced a player like Kevin Durant. People are going to say, well, the Chicago Bulls, they played similar teams like that in the 90s, but it's not at the level. It's not in the way that Golden State is. What am I saying with all this, folks? You look at a guy like Larry Bird. He appreciates the players that play in today's game. He's talked about saying that the fact that these players are getting disrespected and how guys are saying that it's not as skilled or the league is not the same. That's ludicrous and that's stupid, man. Come on. Klay Thompson getting 60 points in 29 minutes or scoring 37 points in a quarter. Larry Bird has high praise. Part of that reason is because Larry Bird played in a much more physical era and the amount of injuries he hampered. That's why Larry Bird all the time says he wishes he played in an era today where you couldn't touch him. And the fact that he won 3 straight MVPs in a more physical, I'm not going to say defensive era, I'm going to say more physical. Because if you remember, folks, the 80s was a more fast-paced league at the time. And that was the golden age. That was the golden age of basketball, the 80s. The cream crop of stars. And remember, it's the greatest era of small forwards in NBA history in the 80s, folks. the greatest crop of small forwards in NBA history in the 80s. And then you have guys like Lou Williams and Gilbert Arenas who go on their No Chill podcast and say, well, if you put LeBron in 75, like, what are you talking about, bro? He would win 15 championships in a row. Are you kidding me? 15 championships in a row. Right. Because that's stemming from your logic of LeBron went to 8 straight finals, man. He went to 8 straight finals. That's not an easy thing to do. There was somebody who said it takes 2 to tango. LeBron did this all by himself. But when it comes to other players, it takes 2 to tango, right? That's what I find ridiculous. It takes 2 to tango for other players, but according to people, LeBron did it by himself. That's why I said that the goalpost always changes with LeBron and wins and losses. Lou Williams just said they would win 50 championships in a row. And that the NBA in the 90s was a more stoppage league. If y'all remember, the toughest defensive stretch in NBA history was from mid-90s to mid-2000s. That was the toughest defensive era in NBA history. It was really hard to score points during that time. That's how tough defensively. In the early 90s, I wouldn't say it was defensively, good, but I wouldn't say nowhere near the level that it was in the mid to late 90s and then into the early 2000s. I thought that defense was a lot much more tougher than the early 90s. But there was still defense being played, no question. So then when I look at it, and then so then I was watching George Gervin the other day in Vegas, and he was interviewed by shout out to my man RB the Breakthrough, man. If you haven't gone check out his channel, go check out his channel, man. Amazing objective commentary, man. Great NBA content. Go check out RB the Breakthrough, man. Check that dude out, man. That dude is for real. That dude never lacking in these NBA streets, man. And then that dude, again, man, he is all about his grind, man. And he just tries to spread out that love and positivity on to do your own. But he spoke to George Gervin, man, and George Gervin was talking a lot of facts when he spoke. And I try to listen and key in on his words and what he was saying about today's era. Now, the one thing I did not agree with, though, what he was like, James, well, you know what? Let me double down on that, because maybe he was probably talking about in terms of play style. He was saying that James Harden can't score like him, right? James Harden averaged 36 a game, 36, 7 and 6. So James Harden is capable of scoring just as good as George Gervin. But I think George Gervin was probably talking about play style. But ladies and gentlemen, he said that the media creates this notion of why guys have to go join super teams when their careers are not celebrated like in the way they should. And I said it's true. The media have been spinning everything for years. They've been spinning everything for years. It's like that's why these guys go out and chase and make super teams. I'm saying it, man. I have said that. Many people have said that over the years. Many people have said it. It's just, again, like I said, these pundits just don't want to listen, and they just want to sit there and get brainwashed like they're in the damn Twilight Zone, hypnotized, mesmerized, stupefied, bamboozled by the crap that is being told on national television. Because what is there? There's an agenda. There is an agenda. Which is, to me, part of the reason why new school players and old school players go back and forth dissing each other. I mean, look what LeBron James has done to Michael Jordan. I mean, the dude passed him, and he talks about how he wanted to be like MJ, how he idolized to be MJ, how he wanted kids to look up to him like he looked up to MJ and stuff like that. Like, the dude sound obsessed. But then he'll go on social media and talk about how Michael doesn't really speak up for the black community. He's gone on this tirade. And a lot of it was because LeBron's looking for that validation. He's looking for attention from MJ. And what you're doing is you talk about how much you idolize a player you grew up watching, but then you're disrespecting him at the same time. That this is a new school player in LeBron James dissing the old school in Michael Jordan. Or when you talk about Oscar Robertson, dissing Steph Curry and saying how he's a benefit of the rules and all this kind of stuff, and says that he has what he benefits from today's era, and that he's really not as good as he is. People forget that Steph Curry was not even supposed to be an NBA player. People said that dude was not even going to be in the league. He got turned down by so many different colleges. I mean, Do y'all remember that nobody was considering Golden State a super team right up until LeBron and the Cavaliers came back from 3-1 and beat Golden State? And then and nobody was saying that. See, all they said was they beat the greatest team with a regular season record of 73-9 that lost 9 playoff games. Then what happened? Then when Kevin Durant joined was when they're saying LeBron goes up against 4 or 5 future Hall of Famers. My, have the times changed in just 1 year? But they was like, what are you talking about? Draymond was an All-Star in 2016. Klay Thompson was an All-Star in 2015. But then you got imbeciles like Damon Jones coming out here saying that Steph Curry had never led a team by himself without 2+ All-Stars. When I told y'all that in 2014, Steph Curry made the All-Star team. Klay Thompson was not an All-Star until 2015, the year they won the title. And the 2014 Golden State Warriors won 51 games. Draymond Green didn't make the All-Star team until the 73-9 season. You see how the goalpost constantly changes, and I just exposed it right here? You see? But again, according to these players, this is what the media does. They spin the narrative. They're probably the biggest reason why there's a division between new players and old school players, and there's no mutual respect. There's some respect, but there's some hate too. Now you want to say, well, it creates good television, it creates debates. But I'm gonna say something that Gervin said that really resonated with me when he said this, and I'm gonna leave it with this quote. He said that people really need to learn their history, man. Like when it comes to really learning their history, NBA history. It's a reason why a lot of these guys in the media are always disrespecting players of the past. When they have an agenda, when they boost narratives, when they show their bias towards their favorite player on national TV. And then you have some of these NBA players that either played or are currently playing doing the same thing to the old school. It's like, yo, you always respect the old school, man, because if it wasn't for the old school, there would be no current NBA as it is today. Those pioneers, those guys who played in the past paved the way for what the NBA is today. I don't understand how people don't understand that. And I'm going to leave you with this. And I think this is why there's always going to be disrespect on both sides when you look at compare eras of the 70s, 60s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and the 2010s. It's because of the media. And then some guys who are just bitter because of the way their careers went. And instead of celebrating careers, oh, this guy was nothing because he's not a champion like these other guys. That's the problem. Now we've created this concoction that what we have to do is we just got to go and just travel to other teams to win and join and create. Now, once again, it's a new era. So, it is what it is. This is the era that we're in. Guys like Allen Iverson, he always says, he loves the game because the game is growing. Larry Bird plays respect. There's guys who pay respect. But, you look at a guy like Michael Jordan, man. That dude is still competitive and still holding on. And I'm actually going to do a future video on that, too, about Michael Jordan as to why he needs to let his competitiveness, he needs to let it go in terms of he's still trying to hold on to the game, and this dude is retired. But yeah, man. So I'm gonna leave you with this, ladies and gentlemen. Learning your history, educating yourself on the past gives you the tools to shape your future. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Lewis with another one. Let me know what you guys think on this new versus old school beef in terms of NBA history from the past to the present. Bless up. Live, laugh, love, DJ. You already know, man. Pa las chicas, pa los hispanas. Hit that freaking club banger. You already know what it is.